I say, buckle in, buckle up, strap in. Here we have Lillie Henley will be asking the question, what the hell is it with families? So today Lillie will be sharing stories of family dysfunction. And Reverend Lillie Henley, as a Master of Divinity, her work was at Meadville Lombard Theological School, Chicago, the University of Chicago School of Social Work and Divinity. So please give a warm, open circle welcome to Lillie Henley. May I
turn you on?
Phil's the only man who's turned me on in many years. You know, I'm a little... Alice, would you turn the bass up? Turn the bass up. That way I won't... Is this better?
Yeah.
Lower, thank you. All right. Many years before I even considered going to seminary, I was giving a little presentation at the First Unitarian Church in Houston. And it was during the summer when they had lay people, so to speak, do services and programs from there. And that summer they were redoing their chancel, and so they used to have a they used to have a podium that was kind of like this, and it was real wide, and they were changing it to just a podium that was this size. And so they told us when we went up to the front to watch out, because there were holes right here in the sides of each of the things. And of course, what do I do when I get up there and I say something? I step over here and boom, I go. And when I come up, there's about 200 people looking to see if I'm okay. And I said to myself, man, if I can fall in front of 200 people, I can get in front of anybody and talk.
Very good.
Well, thank you, Open Circle, for allowing me to share my love for Murray Bowen and family systems processes, which I hoped will be informative to you, and I hope when you leave today you will have more information about your own family processes than you do right now. Now, my name is Lillie Mae Henley, and I am from Texas. And yes, I do tell tall tales. So, I was having lunch with a couple of women, and we were talking about the traffic, and I said, I know that there's a motorcyclist that gets killed at least once a month, and I'm sure more than one gets hurt during the week. And a woman at the table said, oh, that's very interesting. Do you have a website you can go for that kind of information? And I said, no, I just made that up. Now, one thing that people who know me, you know, they're always raising their eyebrows. So one time I was driving on Interstate 95. It was wet, it's crowded, going through trying to get from Chicago to the suburbs, and this car, this huge SUV, comes barreling from the other side, comes through the overpass, flips up in the air, turns around and lands on its tires.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm sorry I saw that. Nobody will believe me. Now, one thing that is real too is that, did you know that they turn off Niagara Falls?
It takes 24 hours.
They do, but nobody ever believed me. Nobody ever believed me when I said that. Anyway, before I begin, I want to tell you with my talk, I want to tell you that I have planted women in the front row, friends, who, if a word doesn't come right away, they're going to give me a cue or tell me what it is. Now, I realize, and so do you, that when we get older, we're losing a lot of our thought processes, and a lot of things that used to come easy don't come easy anymore. So this week what happened to me was I got a picture on my Facebook, and I looked at the picture. I couldn't see a damn thing. It looked like an out of focus mountain. And it said, if you're right-brained, then you'll see an eagle. And if you're left-brained, you'll see an ox or something. And I said, damn, I don't see anything. I must be losing both my brains at the same time. So thank you for being here. Jude Dubé did the artwork for my presentation, and I really appreciate her. So thank you, Jude, for all the artwork. Murray Bowen was from Tennessee. He was born in Tennessee. He had all of his education in Tennessee, went to the University of Tennessee Medical School. He was going to be a doctor and a surgeon. But then the Army interfered. And this was in 1946 when he, after he did his internship in Bellevue and Valhalla, New York. So he spent 5 years in medical training, and then 5 more years as an Army doctor in Europe and the United States. But when he was serving the soldiers, he decided not to become a surgeon, but he wanted to become a psychiatrist. So after his service in the Army, he began his psychiatric service at Menninger's Foundation in Topeka, Kansas. I'm sure you've heard of that, or some of you have. And later, Bowen worked at the National Institute of Mental Health in Bethesda, and then the last place he was the University of Georgetown Medical Center in D.C., and there he founded the Family Center and continued his work until he died in 1990. Bowen had 2 significant interests that made him controversial from the beginning of his work. He wanted psychiatry to be a science, not a social science. And to that end, he studied evolutionary science, biology, life sciences, neurology, and of course psychology. He took an interdisciplinary approach. He was a man of his time in that he had great interest in the systems theory that was beginning to bloom from Austria and Europe and around the world. Systems, the general systems theory. And then he was also a man ahead of his time because he pioneered family processes in the field of psychology. Many of you I know that you know something about systems theory. If you worked in science, industry, academia, operations, manufacturing, data processing, I am sure that systems thinking influenced your work, directly or through the design of engineers and planners. Any system, whether it produces widgets or spaceships or furniture, is more than the physical construction and economic output. It is more than the mathematics and formulas of its performance. It is a system made up of equipment, people, processes, and it interacts with the environment. This system evolves as do the people and the processes of production. And this is what Murray Bowen thought about family processes. Before Bowen, no one even considered systems theory might apply to human behavior. One of the researchers who studied Bowen's work said, quote, Bowen was probably the first person to place psychiatry into systems thinking and the emotional process into that system. So the key and the foundation of his work, his beliefs, his theories was that the family is a process, that you do not treat just the person in the family, but you treat the whole family. Now I have a reading, it's in my book. I had a book.
Here's the book.
Yes, that's it. I had a book. Thank you. It's about this family. And Steven Spielberg said this about that family, my family, maybe your family. Because families are on the continuum of functional to dysfunctional. And, well, we just are. Stephen King, not Steven Spielberg. Stephen King said this. There's a phrase, the elephant in the room, which purports to describe what it's like to live with a drug addict, an alcoholic, an abuser. People outside such relationships will sometimes ask, how could you let such a thing go on for so many years? Didn't you see the elephant in the room? And so it's hard for anyone living in a more normal situation to understand the answer that comes closest to the truth. I'm sorry, but it was there when I moved in. I didn't know it was an elephant. I thought it was part of the furniture. There comes an aha moment for some folks, the lucky ones, when they suddenly recognize the difference. Families are bonded. Do you know in the first 2 weeks an embryo exchanges blood and DNA with the mother sends to the embryo sends to the mother their own DNA? So you're always bonded. You can move to another continent, but you're still bonded. You never, and this is what Bowen and several other researchers and psychiatrists say, you never can break the bonds. You can have a better relationship, but you can never break those bonds. Here is how Bowen defined emotional system for human beings. Every human being has an emotional guidance system, an emotional self that has been created and shaped by the evolutionary process. The human emotional system includes emotions, feelings, and subjectively based attitudes, values, and beliefs. While each person's emotional system is a product of the evolutionary process and embedded in his or her genes, it is determined by multiple generations of ancestors. The uniqueness, which is primarily governed by a relationship process is of no one person's design. I can't put that here, but I will just put our sweet little family down here. These are the 6 types of basic emotions that are in our primal brains. I did a survey of different websites that had 6 basic emotions, 5, 7, and some that had 22. But basically, the consensus is that these are the emotions that are embedded in our brains, in our primal brains. And this is what all living animals have in their brain. Happiness, sadness, fear, disgust, anger, and surprise. Whenever we are challenged in any way, whether it's seeing a car pull up to a stop sign and very quickly wondering if it's going to stop or run the stop sign, our primal brain goes into action right away and probably sends us fear. But then that fear is moved up into our frontal brain, our neocortex, and it mitigates that primal fear to, oh, I see they're going to stop. So anytime you're in any kind of challenging situation, the basic emotions take a microsecond or however long it takes a basic emotion to come into your brain. You don't know this. You do not. This is the part, Sigmund Freud said, this is the part that says human beings were often motivated by unconscious forces rather than rational thinking. So when you're fearful that the car won't stop and the process moves into your frontal brain, then there your rational thinking goes into place. So Bowen was convinced through his studies that all animals, including human beings, have this, and that all animals and human beings are are processed emotionally first before anything else happens. Now, this right here is a diagram that Murray Bowen created, and him and his people, and it shows how the family system can be affected by not only what's inside them as a unique individual, but by the process of living together as a family. This family is a mechanic and a teacher. And the mechanic is a physically abusive person. The teacher is an alcoholic. Some teachers say, yeah, that's right. That was me. They have 3 children. 1, 2, 3 children. One of the children is physically abusive. One of the children is an alcoholic and physically abusive. And one of the children is a drug addict and physically abusive. This drug addict, physically abusive person married an alcoholic. And you wonder how they could, if they were unhappy with an alcoholic teacher, how they can marry another alcoholic. You're comfortable.
Yep.
When you're in that environment, you're comfortable with that. And so they had 2 children. One was alcoholic and the other one was physically abusive. This couple had one child, and she was an alcoholic. This person, this son, had an alcoholic, a physically abusive child, and one who was both.
Question. Who did he marry?
What?
What's the open circle?
The open is women and the square is men.
So this person wasn't addicted.
Without color.
The one without colour.
The one without color?
See,
Normal.
Normal.
I didn't recognize it.
What is normal?
What is normal? Good question. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, but don't think that all of this started here. It started a long, long, long time ago. Now, this particular family could or could not be me, my family. No, it's similar to my family, but this particular family had a lot of challenges. And so, this person, this father right here, had alcoholism, physically abusive, sexually abusive, and pedophile. And you know, 50 or 60 years ago, and this is not my family, although I can tell you that my father was an alcoholic, physically abusive, sexually abusive, not in a sexual way, but he set up a sexual environment where all women were objects for sex, and I don't believe he was a pedophile. Although when we got older, my sister and I, and we started developing, and my sister's friends started developing, and my dad would talk about how much we're becoming women. We stopped inviting our friends over. So, and I don't know when or where he would have time to be a pedophile, but he probably had those kinds of feelings. I'm sure. But we just avoided the problem by not having any friends over. But this person had a child that had all of their challenges, who married an alcoholic. This person had all of the challenges and married an alcoholic. This child was a pedophile and married an alcoholic. One granddaughter joined AA, and the other joined NA, 12-step groups. These two granddaughters. And eventually I hope that they became a lot more healthy than the rest of the family. Now, when I say my father was physically abusive, he was physically abusive to my brother. Now, he was a person of his time, and men were, as he would say, the king of the house. And I saw what his abuse of my brother led to. When my brother was, he had to be around two or so, and he was just talking, and I was a little baby. Now, I remember this, but I was a little baby in arms. I guess because the story was told over and over. But we were on a rowboat going across from crossing a bayou in Texas to go to a picnic on a little island out there. And I think it was a company picnic, and there were teenage boys all playing in the water, swimming around the boat and stuff. And my little brother, 2 years old, jumped in the water. And my father just leapt right in after him. All the teenage boys jumped after him and tried to find my little brother. He was 2. And of course my mother, she probably could have dropped me. I don't know what she did with me, but she was standing screaming. And then my daddy found him. He felt a leg, and he found him, and he brought him up. And my brother said, I did it, Daddy. I did like the big boys. So he was adventurous, very adventurous. My brother James is his name. James fell from a tree this tall in our neighborhood, hit his head, had a concussion. They took him to the hospital. I didn't even know it. I was off playing. I came home. Where's my brother? He's in the hospital. He has a concussion. I didn't know that then. But, he was like, what, 10? So, and he lived through that. He was adventurous. He had a horse. It's called Ragmop. If that ain't a Texas name, I don't know what is. Ragmop. And he loved his horse, and the horse kicked him in the chest so hard that the impression was really deep down in his chest. Took him to the hospital again. He lived through that. So he was an adventurous, just a joyful brother. But over the years, every time that he would do something wrong, my father would whip him. Now, not beat him, not with fist or anything, but my father would take his thin belt that like men wore in those days, you remember, and would whip him. And so it got to be where my brother would get punished for any little thing. And he rode Ragmop in a parade through our town one year. And then the parade kept going on to the next town, which was, it was right next to us, Nederland and Port Neches. And he rode to the park in Port Neches. My father whipped my brother because he rode the whole way to Port Neches. What the fuck? Why? There was no reason for that. But over the years, he killed my brother's spirit. He wasn't a murderer. He didn't kill my brother, but he killed my brother's spirit. And that's what happens when there's abuse or alcohol or whatever challenges in the family. That people are not the people they were born to be. They are hurt and wounded and become people that they have to live. And you know how my brother died at 42? About 2 months, he had an ultralight plane, and about 2 months before he had his crash, I said, Bubba, why do you ride that thing? It's so dangerous. And he said, Lillie Mae, I would rather die in an ultralight plane crash than to die working at that refinery. And that's how he died, the way he wanted to. We still miss him, my sister and I. Of course, I know that everyone here misses their brothers and sisters that are gone. But Dr. Bowen believed that even though we inherit all of these behaviors come down from before, he believed that there was a way to become a healthy, functional person. And he believed that you needed to learn to differentiate. I love this drawing. Learning to differentiate is the hardest thing you would ever have to do. If you have anger problems, if you have issues with people. Now, one thing I learned from my father, who was very angry most of the time, is that I didn't rage like he does, but I was very easy to come to anger. And I've worked on it for many, many yeand I asked my sister a few, maybe last year, we were talking, and she doesn't talk that much. She just mostly listens to me, poor thing. But I said, you know, I'm really trying really hard, and did you notice I didn't get angry at that? And she said, yeah, I noticed. I said, so I'm getting better? She said, yes. She said, but a long time ago, before you started all this, you were a very hard person. A very hard person. And I didn't ask her what she meant because I wanted to figure out what being a hard person was for me. And I remembered a picture of a little girl in the 2nd grade, and I was sitting there with a little sundress on, and my hair was all curly because Mama gave me a perm every year when school started. And I remember looking at that little girl, and that little girl knew that something was wrong in her family. But she didn't know what. And we all do. So, if you have any issues, the only thing I get mad about now is, well, not as much as everything else. But I do get upset when people talk about other people. I was at the plaza, and people at the table were talking and gossiping about a person, and I said, I can't listen to this. This is too negative. It's not fair to that person, and I'm leaving you, and I'm not coming back. And they probably said, good. But that's probably one of the very few things I get angry about now. There is nothing in this world that is important enough to get angry about, except maybe a child or a friend who dies, and you're mad about it and you're angry about it. But otherwise, stepping in mud or dog shit on the street here, it's not worth it. It's not worth to have that negative feeling in your life. Because it does affect you. But let's get back to differentiation, because I have just a few minutes. Differentiation is exactly what you think it is. When you think about science, you have a cell, and another cell is made, and it completely is differentiated from the first cell. It's there and it's on its own. And there are 2 aspects of differentiation that can help you understand your relationships with your kids or your family or whatever. And that is, 1, attachment and togetherness. We are bonded and we are attached to each other, and we have to learn that we want that bonding, but we also too want to be an individual. And the way you learn differentiation is through your neocortex, and rational thinking, and that's it. You find a way to recognize when togetherness is too much. And you don't want to be at that family reunion because, 1, you don't like everybody in the family, and you just really don't want to be around their negative selves. And 2, that you are an individual, and that you can make that decision, and it's a healthy decision for you. But differentiation, you can ask about any counselor, psychiatrist that you know, and they will tell you that differentiation is the hardest thing to learn to become a really functional, healthy person. Now, I don't know if in Bowen's time, if psychiatry was considered to be part of the science or the social sciences, but his goal was to understand and to treat people as a science. And from the diagrams, they came up with differentiation is the key. They came up with a number that a person can be on a differentiation scale. And so I don't know if he was ever considered a scientist or a social scientist, But I do know that nowadays, with all the neurological and neuropsychiatry, and the machines and the technology we have, he would probably be considered a scientist today. But I do know that people accept his premise that families have a process, an emotional process, and everything about your family. It's not just you, it's not just them, it's the whole kit and caboodle. We are a part of a process that changes every day and every moment. And the only thing that we can do is to say, come on, neocortex, help me understand this and help me be a better person today. That's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Lily. Thank you. My honor. Can you hear me? Yeah. That was great. Thank you. We do have opportunities for questions. If you have a question, raise your hand, but wait for the mic. I know you think you can be heard at the back, but Elma, can you? Thank you. Where were we?
Make sure you're doing it fine.
If you could stand, please, so everyone's here.
All right.
If you can.
I can.
No problem.
It takes me a while.
There we go.
Thanks, Lily.
You're welcome.
Your examples of families with problems sounded all right. The question I had is all those abusive men who ended up with alcoholic women, maybe they became alcoholic in response to their abusive husbands.
That's true. And also, people do say about these women that they're enablers. Well, I don't think they're enablers, and I think that's the wrong term with them. I think that they do what they have to do to live with the person they have to live with.
Amen.
Thank you.
Hold on. One more way.
So, my name is Larry.
Hi, Larry.
Well, thank you for this talk, discussion of Bowen. I question one thing, because considering that we are, as he was saying, totally part of our families, that we're bonded whether we want to be or not.
Yes.
To describe differentiation in the way you described, which almost sounds like separate yourself, which is already saying that it's not possible. You see these young people today thinking that they're going to differentiate by ghosting and estranging and all that stuff. It seems to me that's still being, first off, I believe that's still attached. That's still a very negative attachment. Second,
Yes.
I think rather than differentiation, it's better to think of like disidentification. It's like being, you are in relationship. You're still somehow in relationship to your family. You're still connected somehow, but you got to figure out how to be both separate and yet in relationship.
Yes.
It's setting boundaries.
Really? Yeah. You said it. You said it. Young people can move to another continent across the United States, and so that might be a negative differentiation. But there is such a thing as a balance, and if you can learn to differentiate healthfully, and it works. Yeah. So you're right. Thank you for your comment. Your question.
I have another question here. No? Okay, that's
Lily,
okay.
thank you for your talk. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Question. I don't think I understand what differentiation is. I'm simple-minded. Can you help me a little?
Okay. And I'm not a clinician. I did not do clinical with them. But so there's two things with differentiation: is how close can I be with my parents and my siblings, and still be in a healthy relationship with them, and still have my own identity, and do what I want to do in a healthy way. So it's you can't have one without the other. You are bonded to your family and your friends and other people, your friends and stuff. But you have to remember that you don't have to give everything to the family. You don't have to sacrifice yourself to be a part of that family. You don't have to fly 3,000 miles away to a family reunion just because your parents said you have to, and they're not picking up the ticket. And you have to know that you are a whole being. Schleiermacher called it an embodied self, but you are a whole being that wants to be and needs to be differentiated from your family.
Okay. Thank you.
Does that help a little?
Yes. I think I've done that.
Thank you.
Other questions? Sure. Yeah. Okay. Hold on.
It's working? Hi, Lily.
Hello.
I love the diagrams that you had up there. All those squares and all those circles.
Thank you.
Okay, and out of all those multiples that you had up there, there was only one circle that was clear. And of course, you identified the other circles so perfectly, and the squares as well. You might talk a little bit about what a clear circle looks like.
Good question.
Good question. All right. I can tell you what a clear circle looks like, and it looks like my sister. There was my brother and our family of origin and me, and then 4 years later, my sister. And so we buffered her. My brother and I buffered her from so much. I've only seen the woman, my sister Jean, get mad 2 times in her life, and they were both at men. And she could have killed them. She doesn't gossip or talk about people. She asks me how my friends are doing, and she doesn't even know half of them. She doesn't drink excessively. Now, she did live up on the river with a guy named Bill one time for 9 years, and I think they did a few drugs and stuff. But she, when I get upset with something and she's there, or I'm talking to her and I say, the Astros or whatever, and she'll say, Lily, stop. Lily, stop. That's my sister. No drugs, no alcohol, no anger, she used to not have a lot of friends, but she moved away with her daughter and has created a circle of friendship. So yeah, you know when a person is lucky enough, because I don't think she ever consciously thought about the concepts of differentiation or anything. She's just her. And in a family where the circle is, blank like that, sometimes somebody gets lucky. Yeah.
The circles didn't last long, did they?
Now, I have a lot of those diagrams from a lot of people that I've worked with over the last 30 years, and a lot of them have clear circles. But if you put up a family diagram, you can see things that happened in 1 or 2 generations back that are happening now. It's so clear when you put it on paper.
Okay, Alma has a question.
Hi everybody. I'm the type of nervous person. I'll try to do my best. I grew up in a very dysfunctional family. I didn't understand at the time what was going on. Now I'm 61 years old and I'm trying to learn so many things. That's why I'm so interested in participating, whatever. But long story short, a topic that I would love to hear about some more, and I think it would be something like a long topic to discuss, but about what is the relationship with this kind of families and now what they call narcissism.
You know,
Great question, Alma.
I'm
Great
not a
question.
clinician. Linda, you have an answer?
Oh, no.
I'm not a clinician, and so therefore I don't treat people and I don't understand, except I do know that narcissism is a social disorder, a mental disorder, and that that it didn't probably start with a person that you know who is a narcissist, but it's in their genes and in their history, their family history, and it comes down. Every person has to make a decision at some time whether they want to be, well, not, you don't have to, but if you want to be healthy, you have to make a conscious decision that you want to be healthy. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Oh, wait. Couple more? You're the
Oh,
closest.
it's
I'm the
time.
closest, so okay.
Is it time?
Hey, it's very interesting about the physical aspects of this inheritance. I've struggled with addiction to smoking. I've smoked since I was 14 and continuously quit smoking. I'm an expert at quitting, just not staying quit, all right? But what was so fascinating to me was when I learned not only did my mother smoke, and you can understand the influence from your parents, but my grandmother used to sneak my granddad's tobacco when everyone was in bed at night and roll herself by the fireplace. And even my great-grandmother, that's where she got that, you know, so we even had these physical addictions. And so I'm still working really hard to quit smoking, but it's not my fault, it's my damn grandmother's.
Yes, that's right. And you know, your grandmother is the person who made the eggs that were in your
That's
mother
right.
that made you.
That's right.
Hello.
Hi, Lily. I wonder, have you forgiven your father?
Have I forgiven my father?
Yes.
You know, forgiveness, I have a whole take on forgiveness. And I think people who ask for forgiveness, then and they're sincere, you can forgive them. But if that's not the case, then what you have to do is let it go.
Amen.
You just let it go. He was there. He didn't wake up one day and say, I'm going to abuse my son and drink and subjugate my wife. He didn't wake up that way.
Right.
He learned it.
Right.
So sometimes if someone asks for forgiveness and they're sincere, great, forgive them. But if not, let it go. Let's everybody say it. Let it go.
Let it go, let it go.
I think the bell saved me, right? 'Cause this is-
Oh, we have one last one. And it wouldn't be open circle if, I wasn't wrestling the microphone out of Angel's hand here. So I promise to be brief.
Okay,
You know, I'm very popular around here.
yeah.
So it was a great presentation,
Thank
okay? My upbringing is a little different than the United States because I'm Mexican. However, you're a great person, you transmit great enthusiasm. I would like you to consider to help you to host Open Circle.
All right, could you, I couldn't understand every word.
I do have a heaven accent, okay? So, you're a great presentator.
Thank
You
you.
have great enthusiasm, okay? You transmit a lot of great feelings. I would like you to consider to help Phil to host Open Circle.
Help Phil to host Open Circle.
Oh!
Oh,
Well, I
Angel.
am doing that.
Oh, Angel.
I thought about volunteering before, so thank you for saying that.
No.
Yeah.
Lillie,
But-
thank you very much. And once
You're
again, a big
welcome.
applause.
Very
Fantastic job. Fantastic job.